back, everyone. I know the bench is kind of a mess because I'm actually in the middle of the build that this video is going to come before. But we got one of our, I'm going to call it a bonus piece here, components in midway through the build. And this is something that I really wanted to have for this build, but wasn't 100% sure if I'd get. And it finally showed up when I was partway through. It now seemed like a good breaking point. I'm actually at the point where I've got the new system up and functional. My old system's running some benchmarks so that we can have a before and after. And I just wanted to introduce this extra piece, and this is actually fairly cosmetic. So it came in kind of nondescript packaging here. This is from a company called Mimo. And Mimo's big market is USB attached displays. And we've actually looked at those before. So if you remember when we looked at that Mobile Pixels DueX portable laptop monitor, it was what I referred to as a displaylink panel. And displaylink sends all the data and power over a single cable, and that is USB. And that's actually what this is. So this is a displaylink LCD. This is the UM760OF, which is a non-touch IPS like 1280 by 800 open frame display. That's what this little bracket is around it. Although I may end up using that, I may end up clipping it, I don't know yet. So anyway, this is 100% just USB. I plug in this USB cable, which this board actually has a USB type A header on it. And they make adapters if your board doesn't. And it gets power and it gets data, and you can see here that we have a DisplayLink 125 chip on the board. And I haven't quite decided where I'm going to put it in the case. I've got a couple of really good options, including some mounting that will cover my PCIe area, which I'm a little bit back and forth on. I want to be able to get to that, but I also don't mind hiding it some. And so, yeah, it's USB. We plug it in. It just works. Let me pause for a second and grab a laptop to show it off with. All right, so I've got it in my work laptop, and you can actually see that it's just mirroring my desktop right now. And part of that is I have the DisplayLink drivers already installed on my system. But what would you use this panel for? So I'm going to put it in my case, and I'm probably going to run a status panel and use hardware info to drive that. You could, use it to display little animations, information about the system. If you are building a PC that is going to be anywhere that's visible, or if you just want stuff for your own information, this is great. You can put it in the case, you can run temperatures, fan speeds, clock rates, load percentages, all that kind of stuff, and just have it at a glance right there on the side of the system. Now, why did I get this one, which is USB and does require a driver, so that does limit some of its functionality. It's not something you'll be using to tinker around in the BIOS with, as opposed to, one that's HDMI, or, this board does have VGA. I could have looped VGA into the case, and what that comes down to is a couple of different things. The first one is cable management. Doing it this way means that I don't have to bring cables from outside the PC back in. I've done that before. I'm doing it right now on my desktop. They get unplugged, they get knocked loose, they're big and in the way in your system, they use PCIe slots, you know, whatever you want to call them these days, expansion slots. So there's a bunch of reasons not to do that. And the other one is it's all contained in one cable. Power is delivered to it via USB. I could have gotten one of those little Raspberry Pi 7-inch LCDs or 5-inch LCDs and used that. I would have been looping the HDMI in, which I don't like, but I would have been able to power most of those through USB at least, so it wouldn't need additional power. And that is another route you can go. You can do that. You could even go as far as getting one of the display shields for a full-blown Raspberry Pi and having it behave as a little web server and send information to it that way. And that's actually an alternate route that I have considered. There are reasons to take that approach. Having a second system as monitoring can log things when the main system crashes. But for ease of use and for cleanness in this build, this was the way to go. Now, there is a downside to these. They do tend to cost a little bit more. So this one here, we'll just bring it up on Amazon. Specifically, this is the UM760OF. Not normally that much. There we go. They sent me the touch version, which I asked not for, but this one is touch, which is neat but useless for this application. So they sent me the touch model, which costs almost $200. That's definitely not the MSRP. The non-touch, which is what I would have picked and what I actually requested, runs about $105. So that's maybe twice as much as some of the Raspberry Pi panels. You can get some of those in the $50, $60 price range. But depending on what you're doing, $50 is a small price to pay to not loop cables through, to just have an all-in-one solution. To get this is a very nice looking screen. I don't know how much of that's coming through on camera. I'm not getting a ton of color shift on it. It is 1024 by 600, which is a little different than I think I said it was earlier. I think it said it had an 800 vertical. That's wrong. I thought it was 1280 800. 1024 600 is not bad. It's perfectly fine for this. There are definitely cases that lend themselves towards this. So our Define 7XL is not inherently one of them. Although it might actually line up bolt-wise with where the 5.5-inch media bays were. I'm not going to put it there because I want it somewhere visible when the door is shut, but what is it? The cases from Thermaltake have those big glass panels on the front. You could rotate one of these portrait and put it in there and it would be perfectly happy. So anyway, I think that's enough rambling. This is a very cool feature and something that I'm happy to put in the case. And I'm going to put it somewhere that I'm going to call strategic. You know, I might hide a little bit of wiring behind it, which is another reason to use something like this. I'm also going to take time to make sure that I'm not blocking any, what's the word I want to use here? Anything that I actually need to get to on a regular basis, which means I think I probably won't put it on the PCIe slots, and you'll see more of that in the main build video. This is just the parts here. I wanted to give dedicated time to this. I do want to thank Mimo for sending it to me. I still would have selected this panel had they not, because I really hate looping cables back into cases. I've been there, I've done it, I am just done and over with it. So anyway, that is enough about that. As always, I want to thank our patrons for helping make videos like this possible. I also want to thank anyone who helps support Pocketable using our Amazon affiliate links. There will be one to this specific panel as well. I may link some of their larger panels. They've got like a 10.1 as well that's fairly popular. So I'll link to that as well. And then I also want to thank Electrix for providing our opening and closing themes. And finally, thank you for watching. It is really huge how many of you guys take your time to watch these videos, that we have been able to push forward and start 2021 off with a bang with this big build that we started putting together last year. So that is 100% thanks to your support. Thank you for watching.